back. Several consequential decisions are still pending with the Supreme Court, including whether former President Trump is immune from prosecution. As the justices consider their ruling, there are ethical concerns and criticism toward one justice in particular, Samuel Alito.
Last week, the New York Times reported that an upside-down flag, pretty much which became a symbol of the Stop the Steal movement after the last presidential election, was found displayed outside of Alito's house shortly after the January 6th insurrection. Well, Alito did ultimately defend himself. He said his wife, she's the one who hung it up in response to insults from a neighbor. Apparently, the neighbor had not to get too coarse here, but had an F Trump sign in his yard, and then called the justice's wife the C word, which outraged her. Then she inverted the flag.
A lot of back and forth.
Right. But now calls are growing for him to recuse himself for former President Trump's immunity case. Here with us analysis, Steve Schmidt, Scripps News contributor, and of course, founder of the Warning podcast and newsletter. I would imagine, Steve, you have a number of things to say on this matter. I think by now we're kind of an unshockable country. This one, though, still was like, you have to be kidding me. And there's something deeply disturbing. I don't care who you like politically. If there's any semblance left of impartiality of our justice system, and one of the Supremes is flying a symbol of an insurrection in front of his house and then blamed it on his wife over a petty dispute with a neighbor, what does it mean to you, sir?
Well, good morning. This is a very, very big deal. The inappropriateness here is beyond outrageous. It's really beyond my capacity to articulate. I ran Samuel Alito's confirmation process as a deputy assistant to the president, counselor to the vice president from the Bush White House. When he was confirmed at the exact moment, there's a picture of President Bush rubbing my head, joking with me. I was there for every second of his preparations. I know what he said in those rooms about his commitment to precedent, to Roe versus Wade, for example. A federal judge in America, we should never know what that person's politics are. They should be above partisanship, above politics. And Samuel Alito has repeatedly not been above politics. He wears his politics on his sleeve. And so this symbol, the inverted flag, an inverted flag is a symbol of distress on a ship in a military setting. It's a symbol of help. We need help. Now, it was co-opted after the January 6th insurrection, and that it would be flown from a flagstaff in front of a Supreme Court justice's house is outrageous. Now, after the story comes, the justice blames his wife, but he does not renounce the act. He does not renounce the symbolism, because in the end, that flag flying over his house doesn't mean that I'm sympathetic to your cause. What it meant for Samuel Alito, a justice of the court, is that I am of your cause. I am part of the insurrection. And so there are two justices on the Supreme Court who are implicated, supporting a coup against the United States of America after an election. And this man will soon rule on whether the president of the United States has unlimited powers to, for example, assassinate the two of you up against the wall if he doesn't like what you have to say on a news report, for instance. That's the case that's being decided. And Samuel Alito must recuse himself from that case. This is a big deal, big deal. And everybody who's watching this across the country, I don't care. You're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're to the left of Bernie Sanders or to the right of Ted Cruz, an independent judiciary above politics is elemental to the preservation of democracy, liberty, freedom in the world. Simple as that.
Two-part question before we let you go. What are the chances that he does recuse himself? And also, with this event happening, does that change at all how you think they will ultimately rule on that immunity case that they have to see?
I think that he will not recuse himself. The Pope yesterday talked about in his interview his deep concern with a group of conservative Catholic bishops. And Samuel Alito is involved with one of those bishops very deeply. That bishop, Bishop Barron, is one of the leading digital prelates in the country, if not the most, with a very very political message. He's deeply involved with a man named Leonard Leo, who's one of the leaders of an extremist movement in the country. And all of this together, there have been a lot of stories demonstrate the ethical compromises. Fishing trips to Alaska with the donors, this person Leonard Leo there with them. The extremism project around the court is a $1 billion project running by these groups. Samuel Alito is almost certainly the justice that leaked the decision to the Wall Street Journal. He has published really political pieces in the Wall Street Journal before. The Wall Street Journal just said that priest, that bishop I was talking about, is the most popular, powerful Catholic in the world outside of the Pope. So the totality of all of this, you have a small group of people in Washington that are part of this very extreme movement project, and Samuel Alito is part of that. We have a big problem in the country because the Supreme Court and its authority comes from a type of moral authority, a type of legitimacy, where the final word is appreciated and understood as that. You must have legitimacy to deliver that, and the court's legitimacy between Thomas and Alito has been severely compromised on these ethical matters that are grave issues for the country's stability.
It is certainly something we all need to think about, not just in terms of this immunity case, but if this election is close and becomes legally contested, like in 2000, it could be back before this court, depending on what happens in November. There's a lot at stake. It's a remarkable story, at the very least. Steve, I could talk to you the rest of the hour about this. Our back's up against the clock, but thank you for giving us some time on this Monday. As always, we appreciate it. We'll see you again next week.
My pleasure.